Kyle Shanahan hopes Ricky Pearsall will be able to practice this week. But does Pearsall really need surgery on his sublexed shoulder? I'll discuss that and more next on the Grant Cohn Show. Good morning. Welcome to the Grant Cohn Show. If you are just waking up, if you didn't watch the preseason game last night, it was a tie. Really heartbreaker that they couldn't get the victory on that one. But there was news after the game, before and after the game. Before, it was reported that the Niners knew about Ricky Pearsall's injury. And after the game, Kyle Shanahan confirmed that they knew about it. Or that, not that they knew about it, but that he did injure his shoulder in college. The same injury. Now he injured it in OTAs and again in training camp. And Kyle Shanahan, instead of saying like, yeah, that's 3 times, that's really scary, doesn't seem to be getting better, surgery's an option. He, went full defensive double down mode and said, well, I mean, this is such a common injury. It happens to so many players. He just started throwing out stats. Like 80% of players on the Niners have had this exact injury. And 50% of players entering the NFL draft have had this exact injury. It's like, well, no, there are injury reports available to the public, and 80% of the Niners haven't missed time because their shoulder was popping out of its socket. That's what this injury is. It's a partial dislocation of the shoulder. And so he partially dislocated it in college, and then again in OTAs, and then again in training camp. So that seems to suggest that either he hasn't had enough rest to fix it, or he needs surgery. Right? I mean, I don't know any other way to interpret this one. So I think it's kind of interesting the next couple of weeks are going to be interesting. Like, the Niners don't want to let us know where they're going with this or what's going to happen. I'm sure they'd like to re-sign Aiyuk first so that this isn't a story anymore, but I'm starting to think that this is a guy who, I'm not a doctor, obviously, but just based on the fact that he's injured it 3 times now and hasn't fixed it again, it's either because he hasn't had enough rest or he needs surgery. Well, seems like he had a lot of rest between OTAs and training camp. That's 2 months. Okay, he had 2 months between OTAs and training camp to rest it, get it better. But he injured it in training camp blocking. So now it's been 3 weeks. Why would that be enough time? And when Kyle talked about it, he's like, oh, well, it's just a little tender. Like, no, it's just a little popping out of its socket. I can only imagine how painful that freaking is. It's just a little tender. How do you think that makes Ricky Pearsall feels? Like, dude, you're not in my body. You don't know how this feels. Like, it's popping out of its socket, and you want me to practice? Why? So you look good because you drafted me? Again, my best guess is that he won't be physically ready to play and that the Niners will end up putting him on IR and he won't play this year. And maybe if they had addressed this after the first re-aggravation in OTAs, he'd be able to come back. But I think this is a lot more serious than they're letting on. And I think they'll give him one more chance in practice. And if it doesn't work out, they'll shut him down. It's my best guess here. And that would be a huge freaking blunder, which is why Kyle Shanahan won't say that that's going to happen. Everything's fine. This is completely normal. Just a little tender. Going to try to practice next week. And if he does, he might be out there week 1. You believe that? I mean, we'll see. All eyes on Ricky Pearsall now, but beyond what Kyle Shanahan is saying and whether his prediction is going to be true or whether he's going to be right about this, just what's right for Ricky. It seems like they're rushing. Like, they don't really need him. They have Debo. They have Jennings. They have Kittle. They have Cohn. They have a lot of receivers who are producing. They don't need Ricky Pearsall to go be Brandon Aiyuk right now. So if his shoulder keeps popping in and out of socket, and you really value him for the future because you took him in the first round, maybe let him have surgery and fix this once and for all. I think Kittle had a labrum issue for years, and he played through it. He had a little brace. Maybe the Niners are hoping that Ricky Pearsall can do that too, but so far it hasn't worked out. And again, like, he hasn't been tackled to the ground yet. Isn't this kind of concerning? This popped out twice once in OTAs and once in training camp. Hasn't been tackled by an NFL player yet. That's really scary. And he's another, like, every time the Niners draft a player from the SEC in round 1, it doesn't work out. And not only does it not work out, they're like extremely injured and like borderline, like on the verge of retirement by the time they get to the Niners. I'm talking Reuben Foster, Javon Kinlaw, and now Ricky Pearsall. Like, can you play football? Or are you going to keep breaking down every couple of months? That's what happened to Foster. It's what happened to Kinlaw. And that's what's been happening to Pearsall. Because don't just forget. I mean, don't forget the hamstring injury he had off-site that we know absolutely nothing about. Re-aggravates his shoulder in OTAs, goes away, tries to get ready for training camp, hurts his hamstring, comes back, hurts his shoulder again. So it's not just one thing you got to worry about with this guy. Again, even if he didn't need surgery, rest him as long as possible. He's done nothing this offseason. He's not in a position to play. He hasn't earned playing time. Jennings, Debo, and Cowan clearly are ahead of him on the depth chart. So at best, he's the 4th wide receiver, but he's not because Chris Conley's ahead of him on the depth chart. So at best, he's the 5th wide receiver. Even if he's healthy, he'd be inactive. Just rest him. But the problem is, the reason why they won't just be, I mean, like, if he were a 2nd or 3rd round pick, I would imagine they'd be much more transparent about what's going on. Yeah, not ideal. He's hurt. Could be bad. Like with Drake Jackson, they didn't sugarcoat it. Yeah, the patellar tendon didn't heal like we thought. He's out for the year. Sorry. But with Pearsall, he's a 1st round pick. They all have their reputations on the line. They know that their 1st round pick history has been abysmal. And I don't know whether they're like hoping and praying for good news in a couple of weeks or they're just delaying the inevitable. But yeah. I'd be freaking shocked if he played anytime soon. I'm actually surprised to hear that he's going to practice. Like, I need to see this, and I will get to see this. He's now the most interesting story on the team, at least on the field. Brandon Aiyuk still the most interesting story. Trent Williams, interesting. But my goodness, Kyle Shanahan, you could tell he was being defensive too when he started throwing up made up stats. 50%, 80%. Dude, you're just covering your butt right now because you drafted someone who's injured. And he was injured before. And you didn't tell us. You either knew or you found out when we found out. And either way, it's looking like another wasted 1st round pick. Let's just go through them. Mike McGlinchey's looking like one of the best 1st round picks this regime's ever had. Solomon Thomas and Reuben Foster in the same year. Mike McGlinchey the next year. Then Nick Bosa, Javon Kinlaw, Brandon Aiyuk, Trey Lance, essentially 3 years in a row. They drafted Trey Lance in the 1st round 3 times. And then Ricky Pearsall. So I don't know, like, should they just not draft in the 1st round anymore? Trade those picks for players who are proven, or trade down for picks in rounds 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7? Should they just consolidate all their picks in rounds 4, 5, 6, and 7? That's where they do well. Poor Ricky. Okay, I got more to say about Ricky. Did the 49ers thoroughly vet Ricky Pearsall? When they drafted Ricky, they kind of were like, I took it as almost gloating. Like, no one knew we liked him because we didn't meet with them before the draft. No. We didn't want teams to know how much we value Ricky. Because if teams saw that we were meeting with Ricky, if we brought him to our facility, then everyone would want Ricky because we are the best team in the league. And we are the trendsetters. And we are the music makers. And we are the dreamers of dreams. And the snozberries taste like snozberries in Santa Clara. But let me tell you something. If they had brought him in for an official visit and stopped being so cute, they probably would have found everything they needed to know about this shoulder injury and not drafted him. This is why the visits are important. Instead of trying to trick people, like no one wanted Ricky Pearsall because you wanted Ricky Pearsall. People wanted Xavier Worthy. I think you wanted Xavier Worthy. Either they wanted Xavier Worthy and the Chiefs leapfrogged the Niners, and the Niners were like, damn, we have to get a wide receiver we haven't vetted. Let's get Ricky Pearsall. I like his tape. Or the Niners really, 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 really wanted Ricky Pearsall and just convinced themselves not to really do homework on him. This is the problem with the Niners and first-round picks. They want to be all sneaky. They don't want to let people know who they're going to take, and they end up not really vetting these players. They didn't bring Trey Lance in for a visit. Now, they couldn't because it was the pandemic, but like that's a bad year to trade 3 first-round picks for a quarterback who's supposed to be the future, a guy you barely know. How well do they know Javon Kinlaw? How well do they know Reuben Foster? Apparently not well. So if you're not really going to vet these players because you want to like be sneaky, don't draft them. Don't do it. It seems like the Niners do a whole lot better when they actually vet the players that they bring in. They're not being sneaky with the 4th round pick, 5th round pick. It'd be interesting for someone to pull up the official list of players the Niners met with before the draft. Who's on that list and who's not? Was Xavier Worthy on the list? Was Jacob Cowing on the list? Ricky Pearsall wasn't. Because what's crazy is it seems like this is a really good draft class. After Pearsall, Renardo Green, promising. Dominic Pooney, starting. Malik Mustafa, promising. Isaac Guerrero, the kick returner. Jacob Cowing, the punt returner. Who else we got? Jarrett Kingston, promising. Tatum Bethune, promising. Ricky Pearsall, where did you come from? I don't think they vetted him. I think they're covering their rear ends on this one, which is okay. And, they're going to say, if they put him on IR, they're going to say stuff like, well, we re-signed Aiyuk or Jacob Cowing emerged. Let's just pretend we drafted. They can't do that. The whole let's just pretend we didn't take Ricky Pearsall in round 1. That's the thing I did with Trey. Like, let's just pretend we didn't draft Trey Lance. We didn't spend 3 first round. Let's pretend we spent those 3 first round picks on Brock Purdy. No. You can't keep throwing away first round picks. Maybe if you won a Super Bowl, you could say you could do it, but you haven't. So this is a big story. If Pearsall misses week 1, if he's on IR, if he misses the season, that's a problem because this was an opportunity, that first round pick, to make the Niners better. And this is why I didn't like, even if he were healthy, I was like, I don't see how he makes the Niners better this year. He's not going to be higher than 4th on the depth chart at wide receiver. How does this improve the team? Well, now you're going to be inactive or on IR. And you could have traded up, you could have traded down, you could have picked an offensive lineman, a defensive back. You could have taken a center to put next to Dominic Pooney. You could have taken a right tackle. I mean, my God, Colton McKivitz. There's clips of him last night just like falling over trying to pass block against some Raiders 3rd string DN. My God. But no, you took a guy why? And again, with Ricky Pearsall, like not his fault. He had a shoulder injury that was flagged apparently. He didn't produce in college. He never had a 1,000-yard season. He had 14 touchdowns in 5 years. What? So you took him because you liked his combine numbers? You liked his short shuttle? You liked his 3-cone? You liked his tape from 2024? That's it? That's the 2023? That's the whole thing? And again, when the Niners draft these SEC dudes in round 1, they're like, their bodies are toast. Foster, Kinlaw, Pearsall. Maybe stop with the SEC dudes in round 1 because that's a very physical brand of football over there. And a lot of times they're spit up and shoot out by the time they're done being amateurs, which is terrible. Careless is what this was. there's been an update on Brandon Aiyuk, and the update is that there's no update. This comes directly from Ian Rappaport, who's the most he's the most respected of the people who give non-updates. A lot of people like to say something's happening, something's not happening. I got some sources, it's fluid. And of all the people who do that, Ian Rappaport is the most respected for sure. So when he says that the Niners and Aiyuk have made no progress and they're still in the same stalemate they've been for a couple of weeks, I believe him. And really, I think it's kind of interesting because every few weeks, every few days, we need a non-update. Hey, has anything changed? No? Good to know. Because the last time we tuned in on this really boring television show, as the Aiyuk turns, he and the 49ers were haggling over the fourth and final year of the contract extension, which hasn't been agreed upon yet. Good to know they're still arguing over that last year. I don't think we should be surprised. As soon as the Niners caved with Bosa 4 days before the season started last year, they set the precedent that they might do it again. So any player who's asking for $30+ million a year owes it to themselves to just wait out the Niners and see what they do. So I would expect that they're still haggling over money, and they will be until the very 11th hour, September 5th, 6th, 7th, right before the season starts. And again, my guess is that the Niners feel that Aiyuk ultimately will cave and that they don't need to make another offer. I think they think he's not that serious about his position, that he wanted attention more than he wanted all this money, that he didn't really want to practice, that he wanted preferential treatment, that he got it, and that eventually he's going to cave and sign what they've offered. And if he doesn't, I think they'll happily trade him to the Steelers right before the season starts. They already have a deal in place with Pittsburgh. That's been reported. It was reiterated by Ian Rappaport today. The deal is in place. They have agreed. They like Pittsburgh's trade offer. They're just waiting to see, essentially, if Aiyuk will cave, which is smart. Okay, you can send Aiyuk to Pittsburgh whenever, right? It's not in the Niners' interest to get him in practice over there so he can learn their system and hit the ground running. Like, that's their problem. The trade is agreed upon. You can send him to Pittsburgh the day before the season starts. Wait and see if Aiyuk caves and says, you know what, I really don't want to go to Pittsburgh. I'll sign this deal. I was just waiting to see if you guys would blink. I'm blinking. Otherwise, if the Niners do all this just to cave and give Aiyuk everything he wants at the last minute, it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. Because you could have just gave him that earlier in the offseason, had him in training camp, had him ready to go. He's a key player. He's had one special season that came after a special offseason. This year, I don't know what you're expecting from Brandon Aiyuk. Are we expecting 2020 Brandon Aiyuk, 2022 Brandon Aiyuk? I don't know. So I just couldn't imagine that the Niners at the very last move is to up their offer again and give him everything he wants right before the season starts. That's embarrassing. They've been trying to take a hard line the whole time. They've been trying to act like they've been more than generous and that Aiyuk has been impossible to work with and that he's forcing their hand. And I think that's how this is going to go. And if and when they trade him, they're going to be like, we tried. We offered him more than $30 million a year. We took this down to the wire. We wanted him around. He just was impossible. Best guess. Again, maybe the deal has been agreed upon already and no one's telling anyone. It's the world's biggest secret, but it sounds like the people who know are saying still haggling over year 4. I'd love to hear if you guys have a different take on all this because it seems like I just can't imagine the Niners caving after all this. It would be so freaking embarrassing. But that's just me. Maybe they don't get embarrassed. I do. Speaking of me, let's take a minute to acknowledge the sponsor of this wonderful show, the Sleeper app. Make sure you go download the Sleeper app in the App Store. It's the best of the daily fantasy apps, and it sponsors the show. It doesn't seem to have Niners lines yet, per se, because that's a Monday night game, I guess. but it will soon. So let's do Denver, Seattle, because that's a team. I mean, come on. Let's do passing yards. No, wait, no. Okay, they have 3 players from this one. That's fine. Let's do Kenneth Walker. 64.5 rushing yards against Denver. Totally new team. Yeah, I'm going to say more. It's the Ravens. The Ravens West now. Ravens Northwest. I think they're going to try to be a physical. And honestly, they can't. Geno Smith, I mean, they're not supposed to be throwing very much. Cortland Sutton, 54.5 receiving yards. I think more. Looks like they're going to pass a lot with Bo Nix and Sean Payton, and that's a receiver the Niners might want in a trade if they were to trade Brandon Aiyuk, but it seems like they're probably going to keep him in Denver because they have a quarterback who needs a wide receiver. Chargers, Justin Herbert, 239.5 passing yards. I'm going to go less. He's been dealing with plantar fasciitis. He has no receivers. They're going to run the ball over there. Brock Bowers, Devontae Adams, 73.5 passing yards. Definitely less. That team is trash. That's my analysis. Carolina, New Orleans, Jax, and Miami. Trevor Lawrence, 254.5 passing yards less because I'm a hater. Not a big fan of Trevor Lawrence. Is he better than Mac Jones? I'd love to know. I guess we'll find out. Tua Tagovailoa, 262.5 passing yards against Jacksonville. Less. I don't believe in anyone today. Who did I say more than? Oh, I'm changing my mind on Kenneth Walker because why should he have a good day? And then Cameron Sutton, yeah, he's the one guy I'm positive about in this whole group. So I'm flexing it. If I get all 6 right, which I'm going to win $241. If I didn't flex it and maxed it, I'd get almost $400. But I'm just going the conservative play. I'm laying up here. I'm just pulling a 9 iron when I could take out the 7, but no. Done. Make sure you download the app. Use promo code Cohn, COHN, on your first deposit to get a deposit match up to $100. Thank you, Sleeper app. Okay. Let's go through the 53-man roster and predict who's going to make it now that we've seen the entire preseason, okay? Starting with quarterbacks. I don't think Tanner Mordecai is going to make the team. I don't think he's going to pull a Brock Purdy and just make the 53-man roster. I don't think he showed quite enough, although I think he's better than Brandon Allen. I liked his little Hail Mary at the end. It seems like he can, Brandon Allen is the one quarterback on the team who can't really move. He could throw. He knows the system. But when the pocket breaks down, which is frequently with this team, he's not going to make anything positive happen. Bad things can happen. But Mordecai can make something positive happen. Dobbs makes something positive happen. Same with Purdy. So I think they're going to put Mordecai on the practice squad, and I think they'll get away with it. I don't think a team's going to poach him because he hasn't had the opportunities to show that he's probably worth it. But if they lose him, I'm going to lose it. Also, Dobbs is interesting. He had a really good preseason, better than his training camp. And he's a guy who, he beat the Cowboys last year while playing for Arizona, which is no small feat. So now if Dobbs had to actually play for a game or a week or a month or a season because Brock gets injured, what would that look like? Clearly, it would look like a better version of Dobbs than anything we've seen. Seems like if the quarterback is somewhat competent, somewhat halfway competent, they end up looking really good on the 49ers. Jimmy Garoppolo is a great example. If Jimmy Garoppolo and Josh Dobbs were both on the open market right now, both were free agents, who would get more money right now? Maybe Jimmy. What is Jimmy making right now with the Rams? Jimmy Garoppolo over the cap. Said a 1-year contract worth $3 million. That's Jimmy. 3.1. Now let's look at Joshua Dobbs. He's at 2 something, right? over the cap. Joshua Dobbs, 2.25. So Jimmy's making not even $1 million more than Dobbs. They're both in that firmly backup quarterback tier. Somewhere between the 45th and 32nd best quarterback in the league. That's Jimmy, that's Dobbs. And Jimmy on this team won a bunch of games, went to the playoffs, put up really good numbers. Everyone could see that he wasn't the answer, but they won with him somehow a lot of the time. Maybe Dobbs could be that too. Like he's mobile, he's smart, he's decisive, he gets the ball out quickly, he's accurate enough. He's aggressive enough. Seems like a solid backup. I was impressed with him in the preseason. So those three, I think they should keep Mordecai, but won't. Then at running back, this is interesting. Obviously, McCaffrey, Mason, and Garendo out of nowhere. Last week I was thinking, man, he's done absolutely nothing to make this team. But then he had a great week of practice. He had a nice preseason game where I think he showed he's clearly the best option to return kicks. That 93-yard kick return was nice, and he probably would have finished it if he was in true football shape, but he missed 3 weeks. So give him a few more weeks of practicing without being injured, and I think he finishes that run. That's 3 running backs. They usually keep 4. And I think everyone just assumes they'll keep Elijah Mitchell, but my question is why? It's a meritocracy. This is not like a nostalgia thing. He was good a while ago. He was a hell of a player as a rookie. He has no juice left. His legs are shot. There's no explosion left in that man's body. I'm so sorry. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't think I am. I think he's done. I think he's cooked. I think he's washed. I think it's time for him to hang it up. I think if he wants to go to another team and try to keep the dream alive, fine, but I think it's over here. And so to me, Matt Breida has more juice left in his legs right now than Elijah Mitchell. So if they're going to keep a 4th running back, and they don't necessarily have to, they could just go with Cody Schrader on the practice squad and say, if we get some injuries, we'll go with him. But if you're going to keep a 4th running back, I would rather go with Breida than Mitchell, who can't stay healthy for more than a few weeks at a time, even if there's no game, even if it's just the freaking off season every year. I think he's done. So those 3. Then at wide receiver, you got Aiyuk, assuming they re-sign him. And I'm not sure they will. But let's just go with Aiyuk for now. Aiyuk, Debo, Jennings, Cowing. That's 4. Is Pearsall going to be on the 53 or is he going to be on IR? I think Pearsall's going to be on IR. That's my bold prediction. Not so bold. So that would mean 2 more spots. Chris Conley's clearly going to get one of them. That's 5. So 1 more wide receiver. Usually they keep 6. It could be Robbie Chosen, but he's done nothing. It could be Danny Gray, but he's done nothing. I think they'll give Ronnie Bell 1 more chance. I'm not sure that Ronnie Bell would clear waivers, even though, man, that guy drops the ball a lot. But I'm thinking Ronnie Bell makes the team, Pearsall to IR, Chris Conley on the team, Robbie Chosen cut, Danny Gray waived. Best guess. Cowing active on game days. Conley 2. Bell not active. And Pearsall out for the year. Like the thing is, you can bring back, it used to be to have a guy be eligible to come back from IR on an injury that he suffered before the season started. He'd have to initially be on the 53-man roster, and then they put him on IR. And then you can bring him back. But now there are 2 guys that you can put on IR before cut down and bring him back midseason. So I'm thinking one of those guys is going to be Kalia Davis, and the second could be Pearsall, or he might just be out for the whole year. Those are the wide receivers. So we're at 3 quarterbacks, 5 running backs, including Juszczyk. That's 8. 6 wide receivers. That's 14 players. Please check my math. Tight ends. They usually go with 4 because they do have some 3 tight end packages near the goal line. And if you only have 3 tight ends, on the team and one gets hurt, then you got to scrap that whole package. So, or Kittle, Sobert for sure. And then after that, it's like flip a freaking coin. You could argue that only 2 tight ends should make this team. That they like having 4, but that whoever the next 2 tight ends won't be among the 53 best players on the team. Braden Willis, Cam Latu. What did Braden Willis do to make this team? Lay out some of the worst blocks you've ever seen. Get straight up punked at the line of scrimmage, no matter whether he was playing tight end or fullback. Catch a couple passes. What about Cam Latu? Latu looks like a decent blocker. What did he do? He like caught a few passes. Okay. He could make the team, but I wouldn't ever throw him the ball or put him on the field in a game that mattered. Same with Willis. So the Niners essentially have 2 tight ends. They could put 4 on the roster, but I don't know what they do. Then an offensive line, I think are going 9. So what? That's 18. 9 would be 27 on offense. It's a lot of offensive players. But we're talking Trent Williams, assuming they resign him. I assume that. Aaron Banks, Jake Brendel, Dominic Pooney, Colton Kivitz, Jalen Moore, Nick Zakel, Spencer Burford, and Jared Kingston, the rookie. That's 9. And who's the odd man out? Obviously, Chuba Hubbard, Brendan Parker. Oh, John Feliciano. See, that's another player who could be on IR for half the year, come back. I was thinking the 2 players that they put on IR before the cut down date and then bring back midway through the season are Feliciano and Clea Davis, like obviously. So, I mean, I don't even know if Pearsall gets put on IR. First of all, are the Niners going to be proactive about it, or are they going to be stubborn? Bring him back this week. Practice him. Let him re-aggravate it again, and then have the surgery. It kind of feels like that's going to happen, right? Like he probably needs surgery. I don't know. Probably, considering he's messed it up 3 times, probably needs surgery to fix it once and for all, but they're being stubborn, and they don't want to take the L on the draft pick, so they're making him go out there one more time and possibly re-aggravate it. Cool, man. You better not ruin his career. You better not make it worse. We got 27 guys on offense. Now defense. This defensive line is so thin. Bosa, Hargrave, Collins, for sure. After that, Floyd and Gross Matos both got knee injuries last night, both having MRIs today. Now, I mean, that's not funny. It's just like, yikes. How unfortunate. Because after them, I can't find a DN who should make the 53-man roster. Robert Beal shouldn't make this team, but he probably will, just because they need a guy at that position, a body. Drake Jackson out for the year already. No other good options. A lot of times the Niners have been so deep that they, like on cut down day, they'd waive a few players and have those players get picked up by other teams because they just can't keep them all. This year, the Niners are going to be that team looking for other people, team scraps, especially on the D line. So the 3 DNs, the 3 starters plus Floyd and Gross Matos, that's 5 D linemen. How many more are actually making this team? Jordan Elliott, that's 6. Kevin Givens, that's 7. 7 D linemen deserve to make the team right now. Bosa, Hargrave, Collins, Floyd, Gross Matos, Elliott, Givens. 7. They could keep Beal as an 8th just because they need a guy. Or they could sign a guy off another team, claim a guy off of waivers. Those were the words I was looking for. This is where whiffing on back-to-back drafts really hurts. They needed Drake Jackson to be something. They needed Robert Beal to be something. They needed Clea Davis to be something. They needed Kinlaw to be something, frankly. So D-line's a problem for the 49ers. And then linebacker, I'm thinking, so we got 27 on offense, 8 D-line, that's 35. Linebacker. Do they need 6? I feel like it's a deep position, but it's also like not a very talented position. Greenlaw's going to be on PUP. Fred Warner, Devondre Campbell. Like, does Devondre Campbell really need to make this team? He's slow. But he's going to make it. And then Flanagan Fowles is going to make it. That's 3. And then after that, I feel like D Winters. Yeah, I mean, they have interesting prospects. Like, it seems like you almost want to keep these. The linebacker depth is nice in the sense that, like, the starters aren't that great because I don't know about Devondre Campbell and Demetrius Flanagan-Foles, but you like D. Winters, Jalen Graham, and Tatum Bethune. You want all three of those guys. You just drafted them. Like, they seem like promising prospects that the Niners can turn into players eventually, if not soon. And then Curtis Robinson, I don't know. I mean, it seems like a kind of a heartfelt story. He's been around here. He's been on the practice squad. He had a good good offseason. It's like Curtis Robinson. You could trade Curtis Robinson or waive him. I mean, as great of a story it is that he's stuck around and had a good, like, they could probably waive him and get him back. So if I were them, I'd probably cut Devondre Campbell, honestly, and go with the young guys. Keep 5. Just go with Warner, Flanagan-Foles, Winters, Graham, Bethune. Go with 5. That's 40. And then I think I want to keep 6 corners. So they got Ward, Lenore. Assuming Yadam's healthy, he's been hurt for a long time. Green, Luter. It's 5. So I guess maybe you just go with 5. I think they might want to keep Rockyason as well, but if they don't, I mean, I think Samuel Womack's probably done. I don't think he's making this team. So maybe they go 5 corners and 6 linebackers. They could keep. So they're probably going to keep 6 linebackers, right? They're not going to get rid of Devondre Campbell. So let's go 6 linebackers. That's 41, 5 corners, 4 safeties. That's 50 plus a specialist. The safeties are going to be Hufanga, assuming he's not on PUP, Odom, Brown, Mustafa. I think that's the 53. Although I've never actually seen someone correctly predict one. There's always a couple curveballs, and I'd like to know what you guys think those curveballs are going to be this year. Because I don't know. I'll tell you that right now. Usually do. I'm usually really well informed. This is the only YouTube channel on 49ers where you get the correct information 100% of the time. Only here. It's true. It's true. Super chats. Juan Solo says, between Cowing and Conley, who would you start? Jennings. I would start Jennings. And in 3 wide receiver formations, I would bring out Cowing. I really think Conley doesn't need to make this team. But he's better than Danny Gray and Trent Taylor. But like, if they just kept 5 wide receivers and it was Cowing and Ronnie Bell and they cut Conley. Now he's better than Ronnie Bell, I suppose. But he's not really going to hurt. He's not really going to scare anyone. I would start Cowing. I think Cowing's more interesting. Lamont 757 says Trey Dobbs is pretty nice, but Kyle will just run him. Well, we'll see. David Spread My Sheets says those saying Pearsall's injured don't know football. What else say you, David? Papa Phil says for the move. What move? What are we talking about? Thank you, Papa Phil. I appreciate it. What else is going on in the chat? Conley for punt coverage. Okay. Yeah, Conley will make the team. Do you think he'll be active? Yeah. They'll have 5 active wide receivers, right? Cowing and Conley will be the 2 backups who are active on game day. They play a little special teams. And whoever the 6th guy is, whether it's Ronnie Bell or Ricky Pearsall, won't ever play. They'll just be glorified practice squad. Which means, do the Niners really have to keep a 6th wide receiver this year? Is Ronnie Bell that important? It seems like of all the young players, like he's one of them that has really played his way off the team. Has he improved since last year? I mean, it seems like he's explosive and tough and fearless and versatile. It just seems like he can't catch the ball. Like, bad things happen when you try to give him the ball, even though you can see why you might want to, because it's the preseason and he seems intriguing. So young guys who might not make this team, Ronnie Bell, Spencer Burford, Danny Gray, Cam Latu, Braden Willis. If there were better options, they wouldn't. Mitch Wishnowsky. People were loving that Presley Harvin until he kicked it too far and they gave up that long punt return for a touchdown. It's all his fault, out kicking his coverage. How quick did it take Tim Ryan to blame the punter? It was his fault, though, I got to say. We were all saying it. Oh, he outkicked his coverage. He outkicked it. Is the super chat tax deductible for you? I don't know. Make sure you smash that like button, though, and subscribe to the channel. I usually don't ask people to subscribe to the channel, but I hear that it's helpful. So we got more than 1,100 people watching right now. You all have to subscribe to my channel right now. I'm not going to talk for 30 seconds. You have to subscribe right now. Everyone. I'm not wearing a watch, but I'm waiting. Good. Yeah. Or else. Did you ever see that movie, Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back? It was a stupid movie, but it starts off that they like have a movie out and they go on and read the reviews on Rotten Tomatoes and they go door to door to the people who brought bad reviews and just beat them up. That's what I'm going to do to you if you don't subscribe right now. Hey, I saw that you watched my stream and you didn't subscribe. Yeah, I'm here. Why'd you do that? I was inspired by that movie. It came out when I was about 11. Oh, there's new emojis. Courtesy of JCK510, Joshua Knudsen. He is much more on top of this stuff than me, and he made like a new batch. So if you want to be a member, it's like $2 a month. You get emojis, man. Look at this. Look. Look at that. Look at that. Yeah. Okay, guys. It's 11:45. It's golfing time. I'm not really worried about Brandon Aiyuk potentially signing today. Should I be worried about that? I'm not worried in the slightest. Some people might feel like they're on Brandon Aiyuk watch today, but I'm not. It's August 24th. I'm about to go golf it up. I'm not looking at my phone. But if Brandon Aiyuk does get traded, all of you, can you guys please call me? If you have my number, call me. I need to know. I cover this team. I need to pretend like I'm plugged in, like I'm tapped in, when I'm really just working on my wedge game. Thanks for watching, everyone. I really deeply appreciate each and every one of you, except for a couple of you. And you know who you are. I don't like you guys. But everyone else I like, except for the 2 or 3 people in here that I don't like at all. And you know who you are. Everyone else I like. Thanks for watching. Time to work on my wedge game and other things. Take care. Au revoir.